in the span of just 1 week, so much has happened regarding the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation process, and stepping back, all things considered, I'm genuinely stunned that Republicans are still trying to shove him down our throats, considering the case against him now is so overwhelming. Considering that the Federalist Society has literally dozens of other right-wing extremists that Donald Trump could appoint instead of Kavanaugh that have identical judicial philosophies but without all of the baggage. But nonetheless, they're not backing down. They want Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court. And when President Trump was asked whether or not he even considered naming a replacement for Kavanaugh, the answer was an unequivocal no.
Have you thought at all about a replacement for Judge Kavanaugh?
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
In other words, this is the hill that they're willing to die on, because this is exacting a really high political cost, and they're starting to lose the American people. And when you look at public opinion polls, one from Quinnipiac released just the other day, they actually found that 48% of Americans are now against Kavanaugh's confirmation, with 42% remaining on Kavanaugh's side, and 58% think Christine Blasey Ford was honest in her testimony. But in spite of that, again, this is really mind-boggling to me, they are sticking with their guy. So let's go through the reasons why Brett Kavanaugh should not be on the Supreme Court. First of all, one of the main things that I think is problematic is that he broke one of the cardinal rules when it comes to these confirmation processes. You never ever want to appear to be a political actor, right? Supreme Court justices, they always have to pretend to be apolitical, even if nobody believes them, even if we all know that you're just going to get on the court and do whatever the party that appointed you wants. But nonetheless, at least publicly, you have to maintain this facade of being apolitical. However, Brett Kavanaugh did not do that, and during his testimony, he decided to come up with this absurd conspiracy theory about the Democratic Party and how really this is them. This is a witch hunt against him that they fabricated.
This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit, fueled with apparent pent-up anger about President Trump and the 2016 election, fear that has been unfairly stoked about my judicial record, revenge on behalf of the Clintons, and millions of dollars in money from outside left-wing opposition groups.
But if we're supposed to believe that, then why didn't Democrats use the same strategy when it came to Neil Gorsuch? Why did they choose to save this strategy for you and not bring forward someone with false allegations against Neil Gorsuch? It's almost as if he's concocting these conspiracy theories to save his own ass. And really, if you're the good person that you say you are, then you wouldn't be acting like an asshole when we're all watching. You would have shook the hand of the Parkland victim's father. Even if you didn't know that that was a Parkland victim's father, it's still a rude thing to do. Who would just look someone in the eye and refuse to shake their hand when everyone is watching? And really, to grasp how big of a condescending asshole Brett Kavanaugh really is, this is how he treated Amy Klobuchar when she asked him a very relevant question.
You're saying there's never been a case where you drank so much that you didn't remember what happened the night before or part of what happened?
You're asking about, blackout. I don't know. Have you?
Could you answer the question, Judge? That's not happened. Is that your answer?
Yeah, and I'm curious if you have.
I have no drinking problem, Judge.
Yeah, nor do I.
Okay, thank you.
This is your guy, Republicans? Really? This is your guy? This is the hill you're willing to die on? I mean, I don't get it. And just the mere fact that people are questioning him, that members of the Senate Judiciary Committee questioned him about these very serious allegations, was enough to make Lindsey Graham apoplectic.
I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. You're looking for a fair process? You came to the wrong town at the wrong time, my friend.
Lindsey Graham is the biggest drama queen ever. Now, throughout the process, Brett Kavanaugh made it very clear that he did not want an FBI investigation. He was incredibly dodgy and evasive whenever anyone asked him about the prospect of investigating him. And when we finally did get an investigation, well, Donald Trump's administration initially put so much limitations on the FBI that they likely wouldn't have been able to produce any meaningful conclusions. And then Trump lied about the fact that he was limiting the investigation when even Fox News at that point was reporting on the limited scope of this investigation. And then finally, after Jeff Flake and Susan Collins spoke with the White House counsel's office, then Trump finally agreed to actually widen the scope of the investigation. Now, even if you're one of the individuals that believes that Brett Kavanaugh is innocent and that Christine Blasey Ford has the wrong guy, well, that still doesn't change the fact that he perjured himself. He's trying to audition to be on the Supreme Court, essentially. This is basically a job interview, and he lied. Someone who is going to be dictating this country's interpretation of the Constitution for decades should not be on the Supreme Court if he committed perjury multiple times on national television. He lied about what being Renata alum meant in his yearbook. He lied about the meaning of boofing and the devil's triangle. And now one of his former classmates has come forward and contends that, well, he's lying about something else. He's lying about his drinking problem. So as CNN reports, Chad Ludington, a Yale classmate of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, accused him on Sunday of being untruthful in his testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee and making a blatant mischaracterization of his drinking while in college. And when we go to his full statement, it states, "I have been contacted by numerous reporters about Brett Kavanaugh and have not wanted to say anything because I had nothing to contribute about what kind of justice he would be. I knew Brett at Yale because I was a classmate and a varsity basketball player, and Brett enjoyed socializing with athletes. Indeed, athletes formed the core of Brett's social circle. In recent days, I've become deeply troubled by what has been a blatant mischaracterization by Brett himself of his drinking at Yale. When I watched Brett and his wife being interviewed on Fox News on Monday, and when I watched Brett deliver his testimony under oath to the Senate Judiciary Committee on Thursday, I cringed. For the fact is, at Yale, and I can speak to no other times, Brett was a frequent drinker and a heavy drinker. I know because especially in our first 2 years of college, I often drank with him. On many occasions, I heard Brett slur his words and I saw him staggering from alcohol consumption, not all of which was beer. When Brett got drunk, he was often belligerent and aggressive. On one of the last occasions, I purposely socialized with Brett. I witnessed him respond to a semi-hostile remark, not by diffusing the situation, but by throwing his beer in the man's face and starting a fight that ended with one of our mutual friends in jail. I do not believe that the heavy drinking or even loudish behavior of an 18 or 21-year-old should condemn a person for the rest of his life. I would be a hypocrite to think so. However, I have direct and repeated knowledge about his drinking and his disposition while drunk, and I do believe that Brett's actions as a 53-year-old federal judge matter. If he lied about his past actions on national television, and more especially while speaking under oath in front of the United States Senate, I believe those lies should have consequences. It is truth that is at stake, and I believe that the ability to speak the truth, even when it does not reflect well upon oneself, is a paramount quality we seek in our nation's most powerful judges. I can unequivocally say that in denying the possibility that he ever blacked out from drinking, and in downplaying the degree and frequency of his drinking, Brett has not told the truth. Now, let me be clear. Nobody's judging his character because he was a drinker at a young age. That's not why we're passing judgment on Brett Kavanaugh. We're passing judgment on him because he lied about his character back in the day. Now, besides that, another problem is that Brett Kavanaugh also insists that he didn't hear about any of these allegations until the stories broke nationally. So when we all heard about it, that's when Brett Kavanaugh himself also heard about these allegations, but there's now evidence suggesting that he lied about that as well. And as NBC News reports, text messages suggest Kavanaugh wanted to refute accusers' claim before it became public. And they go on to explain, in the days leading up to a public allegation that Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh exposed himself to a college classmate, the judge and his team were communicating behind the scenes with friends to refute the claim, according to text messages obtained by NBC News. Carrie Burcham, who was at Yale with both Kavanaugh and his accuser, Deborah Ramirez, has tried to get those messages to the FBI for its newly reopened investigation into the matter, but says she has yet to be contacted by the Bureau. The texts between Burcham and Karen Yarosavage, both friends of Kavanaugh, suggest that the nominee was personally talking with former classmates about Ramirez's story in advance of the New Yorker article that made her allegation public. In one message, Yarosavage said Kavanaugh asked her to go on the record in his defense. Two other messages show communications between Kavanaugh's team and former classmates in advance of the story. The texts also demonstrate that Kavanaugh and Ramirez were more socially connected than previously understood, and that Ramirez was uncomfortable around Kavanaugh when they saw each other at a wedding 10 years after they graduated. Burcham's efforts also show that some potential witnesses have been unable to get important information to the FBI. Now again, this does not confirm that he is guilty of these allegations beyond a shadow of a doubt, but it does give us evidence, more evidence, that he committed perjury multiple times. And someone who committed perjury shouldn't just not be on the Supreme Court, but they should be prosecuted. This is a sitting judge. So if you commit perjury, if you lie under oath, you need to be impeached. You need to be out of a job, because if your job is to rule on the constitutionality of laws, then if you can't follow the laws yourself, then you shouldn't be on the Supreme Court, on the highest court. So let's go over the case against Kavanaugh. He is someone who committed perjury numerous times. He's shown to not be fit for the Supreme Court or have the temperament needed to be a Supreme Court justice. He's overtly political publicly. And when you put all of that aside, Brett Kavanaugh is constitutionally illiterate. He doesn't give a damn about the Fourth Amendment. He disregards an entire amendment of the U.S. Constitution, thinks that the NSA should be able to spy on Americans without a warrant, and he also doesn't even believe that the federal government should be allowed to impose even the bare minimum when it comes to regulations. He's literally against net neutrality. So, not only is he a horrible person who committed perjury and is accused of very serious allegations, rape, sexual assault, but he also is just constitutionally illiterate. So the case against him is enormous. But with that being said, it's still the case that Republicans are defending him. And in fact, Mitch McConnell is saying there's going to be a vote on him very soon.
One thing for sure, the Senate will vote on Judge Kavanaugh here on this floor this week.
Now, the question you were probably thinking when you saw Mitch McConnell make that statement was that, well, what if the FBI hasn't concluded their investigation? Well, so be it. They're still going to have an up or down vote on Brett Kavanaugh regardless. So if they do hold a vote, there should be nationwide protests if this guy is confirmed. Because I can't think of anyone less qualified to be on the Supreme Court than Brett Kavanaugh. And again, I'm being honest when I say I'd oppose anyone Republicans put forward, but Republicans have dozens of recommendations that the Federalist Society has that would rule identically to Brett Kavanaugh, and they're still choosing to roll the dice on Kavanaugh, even if they're spending all the political capital they have on this guy. Unbelievable. So he may very well be confirmed in spite of everything we now know against him, in spite of the huge case that's continuing to grow against him. But in the meantime, we've got to do what we can to fight to stop him. So there's a few key senators that we need to call because, again, if he's confirmed, this would be a disaster. This is someone who would influence the judiciary for decades, potentially. We have to stop this. So Jeff Flake's number is 202-224-4521. Susan Collins' number is 202-224-2523. Lisa Murkowski's number is 202-224-6665. Joe Manchin's number is 202-224-3954. Heidi Heitkamp's number is 202-224-2043. And the reason why I'm giving you the numbers of these 5 senators is because they really are going to be the deciding votes here. And if you're going to focus your calls on anyone. If you can make one call, I'd say choose between either Jeff Flake or Heidi Heitkamp. She is up for re-election, and she's currently polling behind the Republicans, so odds are she's going to do what she thinks will appease her constituents and vote to approve Kavanaugh, and I think we've got to exert as much pressure as possible and let her know that she's not going to get reelected if she votes to confirm him. She's not. And also Jeff Flake, let him know that this is going to be his lasting legacy if he decides to do this. Now, I actually do want to call Jeff Flake on camera, just because even if he's made it clear that he's still probably going to vote for Kavanaugh, well, I want to do what we can. I think he's still probably the most malleable of the Republicans, so we'll give it a try, but please make a call yourself. So again, Jeff Flake's number is 202-224-4521. I'll probably have to leave a message.
Flake's Washington, D.C. office. If you would like to leave a comment about an issue, please press 1. If you have a scheduling request, please
I'll just leave a message.
Please leave your comment after the tone. If you would like a written response, please visit our website at flake.senate.gov.
Hello, Jeff Flake. I just wanted to call you and tell you that you should absolutely not vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh, because if you do, that will be a stain on your legacy that we're never going to let you live down, because 48% of the American people are against Brett Kavanaugh. This is according to a Quinnipiac poll. And additionally, even if the allegations from Christine Blasey Ford and Deborah Ramirez are false, this is someone who committed perjury under oath in front of all of your faces multiple times on multiple issues in numerous instances. And additionally, this is an individual who is constitutionally illiterate. He is against the Fourth Amendment. He thinks that the NSA should be able to spy on Americans without a warrant. Now, I don't know your position on that, but this is something that is completely unacceptable, and clearly he's not fit to dictate Supreme Court rulings for the next couple of decades. So vote no on him. Otherwise, this will be your legacy, and you've got to live with this for the rest of your life. Make the right decision, do the right thing. Do not vote to confirm him. Vote no on Brett Kavanaugh. So that's it. I mean, you don't have to word it in a perfect way. I certainly did it, but so long as you're getting the message across to vote no, it's all you can do short from just showing up and protesting their offices. And shout out to the DSA who actually showed up and occupied Joe Manchin's office in order to influence him to vote no. We've got to exert pressure, guys, because this is very serious. This is a fight for our lives. This is incredibly important, and I can't even imagine how big of a disaster he'd be if he was confirmed. So we have to do what we can.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.